One of the more recent things that it seems to get in the good graces of the UFC is to take fights on short notice, to basically be a company man. And we get guys like Pereira who are getting these opportunities last minute for these big headline events. And it's amazing that he can jump in and be like, yeah, UFC 300, I'll do it. UFC 303, couple weeks notice, I'll do it. Guys like Brian Ortega, who recently said, oh, I was at the Performance Institute or somewhere in Vegas, and Dana White came up to him like, man, you're looking good. He's like, thanks. And then the next day he gets a call to be the co-main event on UFC 303. These opportunities are massive, and the fighters are jumping on them. They're getting the good graces of the UFC. They're making big money, extra money for these short minute or last minute fights. But my concern, especially for people like you guys who are watching the channel, most of you are not pro fighters. My concern is that you think it is absolutely normal and acceptable to take fights on last minute notice, whether that be a couple days, a week, even a month. Is this something you should be considering? Because the thing about watching UFC fighters are these people in the world, myself, these guys, high-level boxers, people look up to them. And you look and you see, oh, he's doing that. I can do that. But I want to list out some negatives about taking the last-minute fights and really recognize, is it worth the risk? A lot of the UFC fighters are trying to find an opportunity to break into either a title fight, to jump the rankings, to make extra money. There's a reason that they go about doing this. But I think a lot of these successful fighters will not do that. You will get many people who go, no, I need a fight camp that's this long. I want to have the ability to train for this specific opponent, and they don't like the surprises. And I think that's very smart. Because the negatives of just jumping in are, number one, you lose simply because you are not prepared. Now, whereas for maybe Brian Ortega or Pereira or Yuri coming up, it's not going to throw them so far back that they can't recover from a loss. For many other people, a loss when you're trying to climb the ranks can shoot you way back down. It basically resets all the work you've done the last year or 2 years. So you don't want to take big steps backwards. Once you reach a high level, then sure, maybe. But I would caution, because in addition to dropping back in rankings, you can also get injured because you were not properly prepared, and the injury can be life-lasting. And the UFC going to people and saying, okay, you know what? We're really in a bind. We could use you right now to pull this event together. You're asking a lot of those fighters. You're asking them to put their health for potentially years or decades at risk. It's a big ask, and I find it concerning. We have opponents that we prep for. That's just the nature of the fight game. Unless you're an amateur and you don't have fight footage, you should be watching and seeing, what is this guy good at? What is he bad at? How am I going to go about defeating him and training in the most logical way? If you don't do that, again, you're a bit of a fool in my mind, or at least you have your coach doing that aspect for you. So jumping to, okay, I'll take this fight on a couple weeks' notice, you're not prepared, risk to your body, not knowing your opponent, being able to train correctly for it. There's a lot of things there which you should be going, oh, maybe this is not for me. I'm not at that high level. I'm not getting paid millions of dollars for this fight, or extra millions of dollars, and some concern is warranted. So again, while I think that Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka are doing amazing things pulling together this card last minute, I'm super excited for the upcoming event 303. I will be watching. You go, oh, Conor McGregor's gone, nothing's going to compete to that. Well, watching Pereira fight is always very special. So he is saving the event. But guess what? There will come a time where he's no longer in the UFC, and you don't want to risk your health just for the company and just for money. But I hope many of you recognize the difference between these high-level pro fighters and yourself. And if you get that pressure initially to take a fight on short notice, a promoter says, gee, look, you can come in and really help me out, or your coach says, oh, you know what, here's an opportunity. You have to gauge, is it worth it or is it not? What kind of shape am I in? What kind of risk am I putting on myself? So don't look to these UFC legends, these heroes, and go, I have to do exactly what they do. There's a time and a place for that. It's not every time you get an offer, you have to jump on it. Safety first, health first, and then the victories after will come. Let's call it there, everybody. I'll see you back here soon for another video.